All right. So this was inspired. Do you want to speak to this one? This was inspired by some of our research
On a second screen. So if any of you guys have a teenager at home, you might have more accuracy over what percentage of Gen Z uses another device while watching TV. I will say I am technically Gen Z on paper, and I use it far too much. Oh, here we go, 94%.
Is 94 the winner?
Go to the next screen. Yes, 94% of youth are second screening, using a second device while watching TV. They're usually on their phones, but that can also be laptops or any kind of social media device. I would say they're probably texting, but if they're checking their emails, they're probably being much more productive than I usually am when I'm watching TV. And to talk about second screen, we're going to have a Spark Talk on maximizing impact with second screens. Our moderator is the lovely Emily Fitzgerald, who is an actor/comedian with over 2 million followers and over 1 billion views across various platforms. Her content focuses on pop culture through the lens of POVs and sketches. All right.
Woo! Hello, welcome in. So to start, I would just like to ask, what are your roles?
Hi, everyone. I'm Meredith Goldberg-Morse. I am the Director of Social Impact for Showtime and MTV Entertainment Studios and one of the founding members of the Mental Health Storytelling Coalition and the Digital Storytelling Guide, which we'll hear more about in just a few moments.
All right, thank you. I'm Dennis St. Rose. I'm an executive with the CA Foundation. I lead our narrative change work. And what that means is I equip our storytelling clients, so our writers, producers, directors, digital influencers with the resources, the research, the consultations, everything they need to tell authentic and impactful stories. And I also find funding from philanthropic partners for those stories that are missing that last little bit to get them over the line.
All right, and so I was invited. Thank you so much, Dr. Yalda. I really appreciate it. So I do TikTok, YouTube, content creation, and my demographic focuses on teens and tweens. And I recently went to the Next Generation Summit, and it focused on LGBTQ plus advocacy, mental health, and climate change. And what was really interesting to me about it was I do comedy, and so I don't often think about the reach that my sketches have. And what was really nice about what we did at that summit is we sat together and we formulated, okay, how do we tell our stories in a way that is native to our content? Because I think that's really important. I've been hearing a lot of questions about this, which is, yeah, you want advocacy campaigns and you want to work with movies or creators, and I think the focus really has to be, it needs to be told in a way that doesn't feel like a PSA to their audience. And so recently, I've noticed that like if I try topics, right, like bullying, for example, it's something very universal that a lot of people experience. If I put it into a sketch, I've noticed that in my comment section, I will have people bring up their own experiences about that. And I wanted to just open the question up to both of you is, what do you think, like, because I know you have the digital kit for content creators, how would you suggest getting people to bring in their own experiences to create a conversation online?
Yeah, the Digital Storytelling Guide is an offshoot of a resource that my team, along with many of the wonderful people in this room, developed a few years ago to help entertainment media storytellers infuse narratives about mental health into films and television shows. And when we were looking at all of the different ways that people are receiving messages about mental health, we realized there's this enormous gap in supporting digital content creators in telling their own stories and reaching their audiences in ways that are very unique to them. And you can't just take a guide that is developed for film and TV writers and hand it to a digital content creator and say, okay, go make content about mental health, because these creators face an entirely different set of challenges when they are developing their content, not just because of the nature of that content and the fact that it is inherently shorter or the fact that it's probably first person in nature, but the fact that they are engaging in a two-way dialogue with their fans. So we developed this guide not only to help digital creators understand whether they're ready to tell their stories, how they might want to tell their stories, the level of detail they might want to include, but also how to then provide resources to the fans who are reaching back to them and saying, I experienced the same thing, or I really relate to what you're sharing. So I'm not necessarily answering your question with a set of guidelines, but more so just the types of resources that digital creators can access to think through some of those different scenarios and make decisions about how they want to share their story in an authentic way that is still positioned to have a positive impact, and how they might even want to partner with organizations to then extend that impact by connecting their fans with ways to get involved and take action.
Yeah, and just to add to that, you mentioned the Next Gen Summit, which we hosted in partnership with Dr. Yelda and the CSS team. But when we conceptualized that, and this is coming from a lot of our backgrounds working with nonprofits, and this actually came up in a question during the parasocial panel that we had earlier of, wouldn't it be nice to have some of these influencers as part of the advocacy campaigns or on the staff of the nonprofits. And I don't think that they necessarily have to be on the staff, but if you're going to ask them to speak out on something or be your microphone, don't just give them material. You can't just give them material and expect them to just pump it out. That's not them. That's not authentic to them. That's not going to resonate with their audience. In hosting the Next Gen Summit, what we wanted to do is give a space for nonprofits to meet directly, one-on-one with digital influencers, and let them, the digital influencers, listen to what the nonprofits were asking them to do and give feedback. The amount of times I heard during the day, this was great. I've never been asked like how I feel about the messaging I've been asked to put out, and I've had the chance to co-create with these, to collaborate with these nonprofits. And I was sharing earlier in the green room with Jeffrey. He actually attended the Next Gen Summit as well, and we were talking about the outcomes. And like one of the outcomes, one of the influencers was part of the youth mental health breakout session. And as a direct result of that meeting, they came up with a whole talking point content guide for one of the creators who was going to the Paris Olympics, who wanted to talk to athletes and the celebrities that were on the ground about how they deal with anxiety. And he utilized language and stats and all kinds of information from JED, the Youth Mental Health Org. But that kind of thing would never have if there wasn't an opportunity for them to actually connect and speak. And I think that's what will separate good nonprofits from so-so nonprofits, let's say, in the future, is that like there needs to be more of an effort. If you're trying to reach Gen Z and you're trying to meet them where they are, you're trying to meet them through those content creators, you need to actually make an effort to speak to them, understand how they want to deliver their message, and make it impactful.
I want to talk about second screens, because this is actually a phrase that is new to me, and it shouldn't be, because I exist all the time on second screens, whereas you're watching a show, but you're not actually watching the show, you're also watching your phone watching the show, and sometimes things might spark on the show. Let's say, for example, it was brought up earlier, like Ginny and Georgia, right, and the topic of self-harm, and you might relate to it in some way, and you might look it up, and you're on two devices at the same time. I wanted to talk to Dennis, because you have some stats on this, so I wanted to ask, what percentage of, is it teens or people?
I have people, but
Okay.
I think we just saw the Gen Z too, but I have people, and it ranges, but it's high. I've seen like 88% of people, of Americans, are on a device while watching a show, which is crazy. I know I am. I'm guilty of that. And just like you said, like when I'm watching something, late at night, like I'm looking up, like, what else has this person been in? Like, what's this filming location? And I don't want to go off, but I could continue.
No,
about- yeah,
I
yeah.
love it.
Yeah,
Please.
no, I was just gonna say, like, the thing, and I think why we're hearing about maximizing impact is, like, if you're watching a show, and part of my job, as I said, is to equip storytellers with, the resources to tell those impactful stories. Like, if I'm able to get a storyteller to talk about mental health or another issue that's affecting us in society right now, how awesome would it be while someone's watching, there's some sort of, like, even a QR code or something that points to resources that have been created in partnership with a nonprofit organization that is an expert on the issue, that instead of mindlessly scrolling through and looking at filming locations, whatever, like, a person who's seeing something that's affecting them, could have triggered them, they can go and look it up and learn and find resources, find out who to reach out to, all of that. I would love to see more of that, and it's something that I encourage our content creators to think about as we build out social impact marketing campaigns. Like, what does it look like to create that second screen content that can give extra life to a show and also have outsized impact?
And we've seen a lot of success with that approach, specifically on Showtime projects, which not only increases the impact of the stories we're telling, but it also adds business value because it's creating that deeper relationship with the viewers. For example, a few months ago, there was a storyline on a show called The Shy, where a group of characters participated in a healing circle on the show. And as a complement to that storyline, we brought all of the talent together to talk about their own experiences with mental health and with healing, and then partnered with an organization called Beam that actually organizes healing circles in communities. So not only were we able to give viewers an opportunity to hear from the cast, which is something that really resonates with them, but also to actually go and do that thing in their community and participate in what we're seeing on screen. So those really specific and authentic partnerships can really deepen that engagement and impact.
Now, I have one last question, and it's kind of for me because I am very curious about this. So when it comes to providing your audiences with resources, what I know it's like more of a personal question, but do you suggest that they give their own life experiences of something that's going on? Or if it's something that they haven't experienced, do you think it's completely fine for them to be advocates about it too? For example, I have a very large queer community. I am a straight woman, but I am a strong ally. Do you still think it is then appropriate for me to also give resources for that sort of thing, even though I'm not in the community, but I want to help? Because I just want to make sure that comes across as authentic.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
It's like a two-part answer here. Like, so I have an example I can pull to recently. I don't know if any of you watched Turtles All the Way Down, an adaptation of a John Green novel on HBO Max. But we had clients that wrote the project, and then a client that starred in the project, Isabella Merced. And in making the film, Isabella felt compelled to do something. She was like, this is such a meaningful project. She does not herself identify as someone who suffers from OCD, which the character that she portrayed does in the film, and it's an awesome, realistic portrayal of someone, and actually harrowing too. It's like, it's very tough to watch, but she recognized that she wanted to do something. And she asked that same question to us. It was like, is it okay for me to say something if I'm not someone who suffers from OCD? And the answer is yes. You can point to resources. We connected her with an organization. It was JED that kind of coached her through how to talk about this, how to be a friend, how to support someone who is suffering from OCD or who has OCD. And she recorded a series of videos that she put out on her social media channels where she called out the fact that she did not herself suffer from OCD or have OCD, but she wanted to be of help and wanted to share how you can be an ally to someone. So I think that's like one part of it. The second thing that you can do is you don't have to be the expert. Welcome someone on your channel. Like if you have a digital channel, welcome that expert and you have a conversation and say, I'm learning along with everyone that's watching. Like, I want to learn just like you and have a candid conversation with that expert, with that mental health expert, with the, the gun violence prevention advocate, whoever it is, and, let your fans go on the journey with you.
That actually is a great suggestion. You don't have to be the expert on it, but if you can find someone who is, then all the better. I think we do have to go. Is there anything that you guys wanted to talk about that I didn't touch on? Is there anything that we missed that you're like, I have to say this?
Go Yankees.
Okay, yeah.
No comment.
I'm going to get kicked out of here now.
It's okay. I'm from Jersey too, so Yankee, yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.